So the pros and cons of joint venture. As a little introductory part, we have to understand that first of all, a joint venture is a contract. So it abides by the basic rule of contracts in the Quebec Civil Code. What do you need to have a contract? You need to have two parties that wish to contract together, two or more. You have to have a common object. So the object of the contract is basically, we want to do that project, let's say a road, then the object of the contract is to build a road. We're contracting to do that. There must be a cause. Why are we joining forces? Why are we doing the joint venture or the partnership, as we're going to see a bit later on? Well, usually it's because partners by themselves are not able to do it. So they join forces, they join manpower, they join knowledge and expertise to be able to do the project that is presented. Oh, oh, it's working. Okay, great. Usually not very good with those things. So when the parties are grouping together, they come up to an agreement. Does that agreement have to be a written agreement? No, legally not. But usually those projects are so complex that we strongly advise to have a written document that will cover the obligations of everyone involved. Because if you go ahead, do it with just shaking of a hand, and then afterwards there's litigation and you go on the he said or she said, you're going to have a very expensive trial because it's really tough to prove what happened, especially when the partnership has been going on for many years, and sometimes the fact that we are referring to have happened 2 or 3 years ago. So that's the basic of contract. We're going to go way deeper in what is a joint venture a bit later on, but I'm going to start off with the first step. What's the first step of having a successful joint venture or partnership? Well, finding the right partner. It's going to be the first step for 2 main reasons, because the agreement doesn't need to happen if we don't find the right partner. We will just pass the contract and look to another one. And second of all, the partner is going to have a say in what kind of agreement we're going to do. So we must find the right partner at first. The right partner is one with expertise. Of course, if I'm going to build a road up north, then I will want to have someone that is either A, building road, or B, has built up north, because that's 2 of the characteristics that I will have to bring together to have a successful project. Which is why it's so interesting to have partnerships between native and non-native, because native know their territory more than anyone else. And most often than not, even big non-native construction company have not the experience of building up north, north of the 49 or the 50th parallel. So that's a big plus. And the experience, well, sometimes non-native company have done big projects, so they are bringing experience, and then the partnership is bound to succeed because everyone is bringing what they do best. But there's way more complicated notion that we have to evaluate when we are joining forces together. And as far as those more complicated notion that you see there, I'm gonna let Natasha explain them to you in detail.
Okay, now when you want to have a partnership up north, you want to avoid a partner that is going to come up north, is going to do all the work for you and help you out, and then leave, and you get with nothing behind. So all your partnership agreements, you should at least have training opportunities that are offered to First Nations community members, so that once the partner leaves and the partnership is over, at least you can continue and work along and continue working on similar trends and similar projects in the future. There are other things, opportunities you can also get when you're doing a project with a partnership. For example, if you're touching any traditional activities, you want to have to speak with the trapper in a region and try to get either move or a temporary way where they can do trapping activities elsewhere, but be compensated, because it's a lot more expensive if you want to move to a different region, just for gas for your snowmobile and just to get another camp up, and a whole bunch of different things that you're going to have to consider. And if you don't have a partner that's open enough to be able to explore different opportunities, you won't be able to move on common ground, and so that the partnership be mutually beneficial for both the First Native party and the non-Native party. That is why a common goal and a common vision is the most important aspect. Because if you don't have a common goal once you start a partnership, as you move further along, differences will come up, and that's when your initial hand greeting at the beginning of your partnership will start becoming problematic. So we really need to make sure that everyone has a common goal and vision. Now, the biggest problem is the cultural differences. Why am I saying cultural differences? I speak on a white perspective, and I don't have the same perception of time. I don't have the same perception of property. I don't have the same perception of family as Native communities do. So when you have a partner, you have to find someone that is going to be able to accommodate and adapt. Someone that's going to be able to take into consideration that goose break and moose break need to be off, just as much as for us we need Christmas, for example. We need someone also that's going to take into consideration different work hours. If there are family issues that appear, they're going to have to incorporate flexibility within the partnership and be open to do that, which are very important issues through the family members and family situations that will pop up sometimes for employees. So we need to make sure that we find a partner that's going to understand, is going to move forward, and is going to adapt their way of working, so that when you're working up north, you don't work the white way, you work the Native way. Now, as for the legal structure that we're going to consider, there are different legal structures that you can get into. There's a corporation, which is the company. The company, on a Native perspective, is not to your advantage. Why? Because of the Indian Act, all taxation benefits are benefits that are only applicable to Indians. And to become an Indian, to maintain your Indian status, you cannot be incorporated into a corporation. So that's why we'll generally recommend that you conclude a partnership rather than set up a corporation.
So when we are dividing the partnership, there are several types of those. The first one I'm going to address is the general partnership. And we can talk to you and explain to you how it works quite nicely, because one of the prime examples of a general partnership is a law firm. So the general partnership is several partners that comes together and promise to the partnership to bring something. It can be knowledge, it can be money, it can be time, for example. As soon as you are promising in your initial general partnership act to put forward something, then you owe it to the partnership. If, let's say, you invest money, to throw numbers, $80,000, then your responsibility is limited to that $80,000. So if the partnership was to dissolve or to go bankrupt, you will not be owed for more than what you brought. Unless specified otherwise, the benefits are split equally among members. If it's specified otherwise, then you have to do it in the contract. Let's say that time is worth less than knowledge, then it has to be written. Unless you, if not, then you go with the general rule, which is an equal split. The general partnership, as Natasha was explaining, is not a corporation, it's not incorporated, but it's previewed in the Quebec Civil Code, and you have rules that you have to follow. So first reflex, if you want to start a general partnership, I tend to say go see a lawyer, but if not, then you can read the Quebec Civil Code and make sure that that section, which is Article 2186 and the following, that it is exactly what you want. It's a short section, it's around 20 subsection at most. So that's for the general partnership.
The limited partnership is a different structure which on the structure of a limited partnership is a lot more complicated than regular partnerships. Why? Is because you have the general partners that come together. You may have corporations, you may have legal persons, and the general partners will come together, and we're going to divide the percentages that they were going to bring into the general partnership. So it's not an equal division between them. However, it has the same advantages that Pascal was saying for the limited partnership, the general partnership, is that in a limited partnership, you're only responsible for what you put into the partnership, which is very beneficial, since if you have one partner that you have a risk into going into business with, and that partner you're not sure, he's had bankruptcy issues in the past, and you want to avoid that, but you have confidence that they can go ahead, well, if they do get bankrupt again in the future, you're not responsible. You're only responsible for your own share.